Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. All in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. We'll now move on with the Director of Finance and Organisation Development Report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Statement of 9.1, Statement of Bank Balances and Reconciliation of bank accounts as at 31 October. Council's information.
Moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Meagle. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against, carried.
9.2 is the schedule of investments as at the same end of the same period.
Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions? Councillor Thomas.
Mr Parker, at our workshop we were discussing our investments and our return on our investments. I just noticed that in that list that you use a number of facilities for those investments. How do you determine which facility you use for those investments?
Generally, we get provided quotes every day from various sources, but we also, as a merged council, we also have access to Treasury Corp. And for instance, yesterday we put an investment with a particular bank, and when we tried to negotiate directly with the bank, we had a lower interest rate given to us than going through Treasury Corp. So you'll probably find that in the future, even though they might be listed as various financial institutions, generally we go through the Treasury Corp because they're borrowing investing for the whole of the state of New South Wales, and we generally can get a better rate.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. If there's nothing further, I'll put it all in favour. Against, carried.
9.3, councillors, is to do with the financial statements being presented by our external auditors, which have had a presentation on this morning, and so the recommendation is to note the report.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against, carried.
Next report, councillors, 9.4 is an update of the draft procurement policy and an update of the draft, the fraud and corruption control policy. Both these policies are important to our overall operation. At the last meeting of the Risk and Internal Audit meeting, Councillor Meagle is the council representative. These matters were briefly discussed, and they support the approach of having these, as well as the Office of Local Government and the New South Wales Audit Office. So what you see in the attachments is an update of those policies to take account of comments that they've been making over the last 12 or 18 months.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Meagle, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against, carried.
9.4, councillors, an update report on the Mulwala water slide. 9.5, the Mulwala water slide. A lot of information in the report to do with costs of possible removal, upgrades and so forth. The recommendation there, councillors, basically for councillors' consideration.
Okay, can I move, please? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments here, councillors? Councillor Watson.
Mr Mayor, I'll just note that the expression of interest, I think that's going to give the public a chance to see if they want to save the water slide. I'm just wondering, I guess to the appropriate member of staff, whether if there are questions coming in from that expression of interest, whether we do have an outline of what we're actually going to be making available, or whether it's just basically you take over the land. I mean, the land size would have to be determined and made public and all those sorts of things. So the expression of interest is going to go out. I think we need to have stuff ready and on hand for any interest.
Yeah, that's right. And I suppose that gives council an opportunity to look at the land size too. In that expression of interest.
Yes. And those are in the report.
Yeah.
6 councillors, an offer from a member of the public to purchase 65 Millthorpe Street, Oaklands, with the real estate agent at Urana, and they've offered a lower price than what we have it listed as, and in the report it details some of the advantages and disadvantages of the recommendation.
Okay. Right, moved by Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against, carried.
The next matter, 9.7, the natural disaster declaration application to do with frost and drought. One of the things that we found in recent, this matter came up obviously with the recent forums, but one of the things that we've found in putting together recent grant applications, for instance, we've been in the process of formulating one for the Sayards and also one for the aerodrome, just 2 of those. One of the things that are normally expected is that financial contribution by council is required of somewhere between 25 and 50%, depending on elements of the application. So that was one reason why economic development staff have been working on preparing information. Another thing was that we found that there was a shortfall of information that was available, and Councillor Longmire mentioned the weather station, not having one that it could discriminate our situation a bit better than what the other information coming to the Bureau of Meteorology was providing. So we've taken a lot of consultation from all sorts of bodies as listed there, and we think that having that information available to groups and other interested parties lobbying for the appropriate government situation will help possibly getting a natural disaster declaration for the event that particularly the frost events that we had over the previous couple of months.
Thank you. Could I move, please, Councillor Longmire, seconded by Councillor Law. Any questions or comments, Councillor?
Would there be opportunity to have a follow-up stakeholder meeting from, how we host the one here? I was just wondering that some of those people are wondering where we're up to as a council on a local government level, to bring them into another roundtable discussion. Are we thinking along those lines of getting them back in the room for maybe before the end of the year would be good?
Yes, one of the things that we'll be discussing at the meeting that Christy mentioned earlier, later this week, is this element, and I've got a separate memo to do with this particular issue. Some of these things we cannot do on behalf of anyone else. But if we've prepared the information, concise, extensive information as best we can, and provide that to people, then they've got a better chance of succeeding.
Councillor Longmire.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I actually applaud the work that's been done with the different entities that's been described in this report, in Mr Parker, because Riverina Plains, as Councillor Thomas will understand, they're very noted in their research and understanding of where it is. But I think the point that was made in regard to an opportunity to follow up is a better opportunity, because the harvest is nearly complete out that way. It's still going as you come back towards the river, but certainly, and the results are pretty plain, and so there'll be a lot of really good evidence come forward from the producers out there, certainly the grain growers, in regard to evidence, which will be substantially valuable in regard to anything that we can apply. And so, and as happened when we had our forum, there was a lot of farmers that were, cutting crops and making hay and all the rest of it. So they'll be available. In fact, they'll have a long holiday period, and so they'll be able to supply information which would be valuable. And as I said, I applaud the work that's been done and is to continue to be done to try and get this opportunity into place for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think Councillor Thomas, the benefits of that would be the fact that we're actually seeing what the actual results are after that period, because we weren't successful in the state funding at last. But yeah, to get results and hear how bad it has been will be interesting. I commented just before with Councillor Thomas, Leeton rice crop traditionally about 800,000 tonne. This year 60,000 tonne, so that could be really devastating to their community jobs in that area. Thank you. So there's nothing further, I'll put it. Councillor
Just
Long.
a question, Mr Mayor, is there another opportunity to go back to the state government and try and leverage some more money out?
No, good question. Who should I direct that one to?
Regards to the drought.
Whether this is an opportunity to be
Right.
in that latest round, that last round of funding, there was only
Federal.
it's federal funding. Is that what?
Yeah.
You're
Or
right.
it doesn't matter who it is, as long as something's got a check on it.
There was a lot of there was only about 3 councils that were successful in that round. But I suppose there's always.
I'll just, yeah, we absolutely need to continue to advocate for that, which, we've been doing. They have a fairly excellent criteria, which is set, which we didn't meet that criteria since we had a little bit of rain. But, they're reviewing that on an ongoing basis. And we need to, continue to advocate for that, and particularly like all of the additional information that we can gain locally, i.e. the work that Human team have done in natural disaster declaration, will certainly assist us, hopefully be on the front foot more.
Yeah, thank you. Was there anything further, councillors, on that? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Councillors, the first quarter budget review is at the end of September 2018. Generally, this first quarter budget review hasn't got a lot of issues that we need to deal with. You'll see in the attachments 9.8.1 considerable detail to do with arrangements, differences that we've made to it. The fundamental change that we take into account here is that when we do the budget process back in May, we don't always have the final results, of course, as at the end of June, and so there's some adjustment to what work was done late in June compared to what we had expected, and therefore some of the, particularly the restricted reserves and internally restricted reserves, we need to account for those differences if we plan to use them for this year and they'd already been used late in June, for instance. So I've put the report to you and the recommendation there as a table.
Thank you. Could I have a move, please? Moved by Councillor Neagle, second by Councillor Whitchurch. Any questions or comments? Councillor Thomas.
Mr Parker, earlier on in the year, we talked about sending out an expression of interest to form a rate review committee. I just think if you're talking about May and you're pulling together budget for May, we're not meeting in January, when you thought that expression of interest would go out to form that committee?
The rate review committee can't really make fundamental changes or recommendations for changes until the 1st of July 2020. So the starting time that I've predicted in January, February type of time slot, hopefully before we get into the budget process full on, is when I envisage that the review committee will start to form up. No initial urgency other than the initial part of any group like that is for people to learn about all the ins and outs of basically becoming informed as to what rates mean and how it all works, so that when you're starting to ask them questions that do you want this, do you want that, do we need that or do we need that, it's been coming from an informed approach.
Okay, thank you.
is a request to contribute to a legal appeal in a case that a number of Sydney City Councils, Sydney, Bayside City and North Sydney Council undertaking. Previous to the current situation, sometimes a council will be faced with a legal issue that is perceived to be of benefit for the whole of New South Wales local government. And so from time to time what would happen is the costs borne by that particular council are shared outside by other local government because it's in everyone's interest. Now in this particular case, I think councillors, from what the GM has told me, we've discussed this at a briefing. So the recommendation currently is that we decline payment of the amount in this particular case.
Our Councillor, I'm sorry, I'll get a move, Councillor Neagle, seconded to Councillor Longley. Councillor Neagle, did you want to comment?
Only to say, Mr Mayor, I think that this particular thing relates predominantly to metropolitan councils. I don't believe that it's necessarily within the broader scope of New South Wales and certainly not the Federation Council.
Councillor Neagle, I did do, I was asked at the previous workshop to inquire. Our recommendation is very consistent with other councils as well. So, if there's nothing further, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, Kim. And now we'll move on to number 10, Director of Infrastructure and Environment report.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Item 10.1 is building approvals for October. Listed there, it is pleasing that we've got above, for 1 month at least, got above our average.
Excellent. Would someone like to move that recommendation? Moved by Councillor Whitechurch, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments, Councillor Whitechurch?
Yeah, it's me, just one question and probably a pretty quick answer. I note there DA 199 was for 2 shipping containers. Obviously they must have to have a development application. I'm just wondering where the line's drawn with shipping containers, because I know we certainly move a lot with a crane and I'm never told exactly where they've got to be put against the fence or whatever, but sorry, Kate. But yeah, it's a fine line, I guess. But I didn't. When I saw shipping containers, I thought, gee, I just thought they dropped them on the truck and used them to store stuff for a while, short term.
My initial response would be they have to be 3 metres off the boundary.
It's consistent with the boundary setbacks in the development control plan as other buildings in the that require development application.
Yeah, sorry, I must clarify that. I just thought more so if someone gets one in that's got stuff in it and then it's moved short term, is there a time frame for someone that puts a shipping container there? Or
if it is in a residential area, it does require development consent, and with that they can apply for a short term, so they can request that they have it for 12 months or 6 months, but within that time frame they have to be aware that they will have to move it at the end of that time.
Maybe they all do that.
Thank you. So, no further questions? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Item 10.2 is development applications, approved under delegated authority since the last meeting.
Moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Item 10.3 is a development application in 2017, and they've asked for a modification to Condition 11, the developer contribution, which we've supported. And
okay, will we have a mover, please, councillors? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Whitechurch. Any questions or comments? No, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Item 10.4 is liquid trade waste policy, which was referred over from the previous meeting to get some clarification and input. I have brought some support staff today to give me a hand if I get into too much trouble with this one. So.
Okay, could I have a move for that recommendation first? Please, Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? Nothing? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against? Carried.
Sewage management strategy, which was also referred over, which goes together with the other one. Again, the recommendations are as per the last one, not as per the last meeting, I mean, not as per the last resolutions.
Okay, councillors, can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments, councillors? Councillor Thomas.
When I was reading through the sewage management policy, I just noticed that it's highlighted quite a few times that when those applications go in, a land capability assessment report needs to be completed. I just wondered if you could give me an overview of what that might be.
Would you like to take all on those, or?
No, but hopefully I have enough staff here to help me. And you want to give us a...
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Thomas. So the land capability assessment report is actually quite a detailed report. So depending on the type of development will depend on what type of report needs to be submitted. So if it's just a basic residential single lot on a fairly large rural area, they'll only need to do what they call a site assessment report, which is just like a soil test, checks the permeability of the soil, that soil can handle the wastewater loads and things like that. So that's like a lower level report. The land capability report is a more detailed report, a lot more investigation, a lot more expensive, and it's for your more developments that are a higher risk, so your commercial type settings. So that might be like a new proposed caravan park or something like that, that is going to be on a septic, and they might have to have a commercial package plant treatment system, so which is different to your single household. So they would need a full land capability assessment report. It also could be required on some of the troublesome blocks where they're on tight space or they're close to like a really sensitive area. So if you look at the strategy, it's actually a desktop study of the property plus a site investigation. They do a risk assessment of all the different issues and things that might be proposed on that site, and then it spits out an evaluation and a recommendation of what type of treatment system would be suitable for that type of land, and how it should be designed and set up to make it work and get the best out of that site. It may even come back that the land capability assessment report recommends that that site's not suitable. So that's done independently, can be done by like a consultant engineer or an environmental scientist type background that's got experience with septic systems basically.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillor? If not, all in favour? Aye. Against, carried. And thank you very much. Sue? We'll move on to 11, notice of motion. Question about notice. There's no items. Reports from committees. Number 12. Do we have any reports from committees? Councillor White?
Mr Mayor, if I could, perhaps not so much a report, but the Cora Events Committee have obviously got their Christmas street party coming up, and I must commend them and all the helpers that put up all the bunting in the main street and got the speakers going, and we may have Christmas carols and music in the main street again, but also to that committee for having the foresight to go ahead and get their volunteers doing all of the stuff, and they've done a lot of work raising money through the year by doing their stop-go stuff that I think council give a grant for. They've done numerous stop-go activities over Mulwala and different areas to raise money, so they've done well.
Councillor Wild.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I went to a few this month. I went to the Yarramull Tourism down at the annual meeting, and they're always pretty good down there. And also, the Mulwala School had their 150-year reunion. Miss Applin was in attendance there and made a few remarks there. Shires Conference in Morley went to, and we also had a meet and greet at the Yarramull Tourism Institute. Mr Butler was there and he gave a bit of a talk, which was quite good. And also the creating community conversation at Mulwala, which they're always good value because residents of the town get in and have their say, and we relate back to council. Councillor Thomas, I attended that one. And members they spoke to about before.
Excellent. Thank you. We've got a report from the Federation Youth Council will be meeting, and there's a recommendation at the time I'll do the recommendation. Council moved by Councillor Law, seconded by Councillor Kennedy. Any questions or comments in relation to that? If not, I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against, carried. And now, 13, reports from delegates.
Yeah, that was Law and Candy.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was too far ahead. I apologise.
That's all right. That's all right. We can listen to it. It's good.
to meet with the board of LG Destination New South Wales, which was very encouraging, and Councillor Law and I got the opportunity to press the case for Federation Council's consideration in the state tourism space, so that was pleasure. The Waste to Energy Forum, as per the business paper, was a very interesting forum as part of the Country Mayors Week visit in Sydney. Many of my local councillors will remember a thing called a high temperature incinerator, which was of profound impact on this community during the 80s. It was interesting to hear the development in technology since then, but to hear also the really restrictive requirements of the New South Wales EPA, which are both the policy maker and the regulator at this point in time, and that's making it very difficult. And whilst there are other facilities being progressed through other states in Australia, it is extremely difficult to progress a facility in New South Wales due to the policy that the EPA has set down. As will be noted in the correspondence from Country Mayors, Tenterfield have put forward a proposal to investigate waste to energy facilities due to the pressure that's being placed on local councils, and we all know what an impact waste already has had on this council in its short time. So there's a fair bit of information there, lots to be considered. The one thing worthy of note is that you've got to have deep pockets, and it takes a long time. And I, in support of the Tenterfield proposal, if we as a group of councils do not be proactive and try and be involved in the discussion on policy, and also be on the front foot with getting a feasibility study done to present to government, waste will continue to be an issue right throughout the state. So I thank the council for the opportunity to attend that. It was extremely informative. There were lots to be considered. It's not just there's your rubbish and burn it. There's a whole heap of parameters around that. The one thing they did emphasise is to have your social licence, i.e. have your community on board with it. I think there are some opportunities for us as a council and a region, and therefore I'm happy to support the recommendation, or move the recommendation, that we support the Tenterfield proposal, because of the ongoing issue that waste will be if we don't do something of this nature.
Thank you, Councillor Beagle. We've got a move there. We've got a second there, Councillor. Seconded by Councillor Longley. Any questions or comments further to that? Councillor Thomas, did you have?
Oh, just to absolutely reiterate what Councillor Mevo said, I actually had read the business paper, because the Waste to Energy business paper was actually attached to one of our papers maybe 2 meetings ago, sorry, through the Country Mayors. It was attached to the Country Mayors document, and it was extremely interesting, and I fully support it.
That's good. Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll put it all in favour. Aye. Against? Carried. Item number 14. Sorry,
I think
Councillor
an appropriate delegate, that's all.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I should get more room for delegates.
So I really don't want to double up on what my fellow councillors already said as part of their delegates, but just my highlight of going to the local government conference was able to meet and greet with Craig, who is the War on Waste presenter from the ABC series, which was my highlight, and I was actually able to give him a parcel from our boomerang bag in Cairo, so now he actually has a boomerang bag with him with Cairo and district written on it. Hopefully it's displayed beautifully somewhere, and in the contents of that bag was some Landcare information and Federation Council information, so that's gone with him, so that's really good. So that was my highlight for that. That was great. Thank you for letting me go for a day. And the other really important delegate, I had the opportunity to go to a Murray-Darling Basin meeting in Deniliquin, and you can imagine in Deniliquin what is the hot topic is obviously water. But the Murray-Darling Basin, the whole session was supposed to be on their water infrastructure program. so with these water infrastructure programs, which has obviously been delivered, as I said earlier, underneath the Water Act 2007, they have 5 programs that they're trying to engage with at the moment, and they include urban water, industrial water, off-farm projects, metering projects, and on-farm projects. So unfortunately, a lot of the people in the room were obviously landholders, and they all wanted to hear about the on-farm projects. Unfortunately, the on-farm projects are not available to any farmer that resides in the Murray-Darling Basin in New South Wales. They're only available in Queensland, South Australia and the ACT. So that was disappointing for the crowd. The other thing that was obviously disappointing for the crowd was they wanted to know about their water allocations, considering that the Murray is in full flood. So obviously the meeting digressed quite a bit because we had landholders who were really passionate about what's going on, unfortunately. So on topic didn't happen. But I have got some information here to give to council because they are actually looking for project partners and delivery partners, and that's where they see local government sitting, and that's for water use efficiency projects valued over $1 million. So whether council could make further investigations, I will leave it in your capable hands. And just one point of call is that this year they're predicting the rice crop to be at 1933 levels. It's been unprecedented, and just one piece of information that I'd like to pass on is that when we went through water reform in, say, from 2006 to 2008, a fellow irrigator in Deniliquin wrote a piece in the Deniliquin Pastoral Times, and this piece highlighted the flow-on effects of just taking 100 hectare rice crops out of the system. The flow-on effects, not only because he didn't produce that rice crop, but because it affected so many people within a community. I actually might grab that piece and email it around because it's a really interesting article and it's still applicable today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moss. I suppose I'll jump in here because I went with Councillor Mayor Kevin Mack and Ray Stubbs from Ringo to Murray-Darling Basin meeting with the Commonwealth water holders. I can't think of his name, but that was at Echuca last Thursday. The message in that meeting that came was pretty sad. Like they talked about communities with 35% less water, how it's been really devastating on jobs falling, families falling, etc. But the message in that meeting was basically to take back to the government was forget about your 450 gigalitres in the SDLs. Work on delivering the balance. They've only delivered 1,200 gigs to environmental water. With the chokes in the system, worry about delivering the rest of what you got before you try and take another 450 out of the system. And the question came up about whether they were going to put it out there if they couldn't get their 450 gigs out of the system, like Yanko Combo or wherever they could pinch that water from, would they then ask water holders to sell their rights, which we thought would be devastating too. So the conversation was pretty much attacked, the 450 gigs, and the conversation then finished on how about, instead of us sitting around a room and arguing about who's going to get what water, how about we start getting into building some infrastructure to farm water and create more water for a growing population rather than fight over the little bit we've got. So yeah, that was another good meeting, and that's a follow-up to that in Albury, pretty much the end of this month. Emma Bradbury. Any other delegates' reports, councillors? No? If not, would sorry?
I said mine.
You've got yours. Well, that's very good. Well, there's no recommendation. Will we now move on to, I've got the glasses back on, sorry.
14.1 correspondence.
14, correspondence requiring council action for information. 14.1 special request not to reopen part road closure of Orford Street corridor. There's recommendation in council that the council the council considered the proposal of parts of A and B shown on the attached map of Orford Street, South Corowa. And number 2 is that council advised adjoining landowners and the Department of Industry Ground Lands of the decision. So we've got to move it in Councillor Longmire, seconded in Councillor Law. Any questions there, councillors? Councillor Whitechurch, is that nothing? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, we've got, there's another 14.2, Australian Local Government Association National Summit on Drought. If you don't mind, could I run these in a block, or did you want to do them individually? Would you like to do that one as an individual, Councillor Thomas? I'm happy to do that. 14.2. The Australian Local Government Association National Drought Summit. Would you like to make a comment, Councillor Thomas? Yeah.
As you would all be aware, after reading this document, it actually is, you go back in time, so you think about in the 2000s, we actually did have somebody here in Corowa on the ground, actually servicing not only our rural ratepayers, but also servicing our small businesses with information. And they're talking about having somebody like that in local government areas to be the go-to person, and I can only actually support that, because as it turns out, over the last 5 years, we have seen amalgamations of not only our local government areas, but also our government departments. So for us sitting here in Federation, especially when it comes to our servicing government departments in the agricultural sector, we're only looking at those in Albury or Demiliquin. We're sitting in a pocket, so you can actually see the need for the feedback from our rural areas that they're actually not being serviced well enough. So that's how I can see from this information that's been provided here from the National Drought Summit via the Local Government Association that I would actually support and submit a recommendation forward through, either that comes through Federation or it comes through our joint organisation, to actually support this concept of having an available person, you know, to cover all those financial help support requests that are being made, because we're in a pocket. We're probably not the only council sitting in a pocket that can't access some of those government agencies. So I'd like to see us move forward with that, what they're recommending from that letter that's been attached to our business papers. Thank you.
Would you like to move the recommendation?
Yeah, I can move that fine.
We could work something up for you.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on. Would you like to put the recommendation forward to us?
Yeah, okay. Right.
We're just going to put some words up, Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, you're all right. The need for a designated person in each council to respond to requests for information covering financial and general health. So whether these could be funded through the Drought Communities Program, and as you're aware, in New South Wales, there's only been 40 local government areas that have actually received that $1 million. So whether there's opportunity for these particular people to be engaged through that funding.
Yeah. Is that wording okay, that council, what proposing to the National Drought Summit, the funding to provide a local drought skill officer?
Yeah, within local government.
Within local government?
Well, that's what they're asking, yeah. But isn't it interesting that it actually takes the drought to actually highlight these needs within our community, whereas even if we're in full good seasons, or we've had a flooding events that have occurred, like they've occurred in the last 10 years, as we're all well aware, you still very need those people on the ground, regardless of the seasonal conditions.
Yeah, for advice for the future, if it's good, particularly whatsoever. Okay, so there it is, that council support the proposed initiative of the National Drought Summit for funding to provide a local drought support officer with local government. Will I have a second to Councillor Longmire? Any questions or comments? If not, I'll put it. All in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. 14.3 is Cora District Historical Society. A letter received on the 8th of November to 18th for Cora District Historical Society Inc. requesting council consider a public committee to investigate solate painting sculptural rail within Federation Council area. Copy this letter is included in the agenda. Councillor Whitechurch.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I did bring this up a month or two ago, and I also note now that Waganya have, through, I believe, Kevin McNamara, a resident over there, have started a Facebook page to generate interest, and they've got over 300 people that want to paint the water tower in Waganya. So it's going to happen in the area, and as I said a couple of months ago, I think we should be on it. I'd said, and given that letter that Dean Druce and the Druce family have been contacted at the chocolate factory, obviously it's right in the centre of the town. We can be part of the trail, or certainly have some iconic things if we're going to go ahead, and I'd have no hesitation to put my hand up to be on that committee if we're going to start one and start it now, and see if we can perhaps talk with Waganya and then get Indigo Shire involved and see if we can get a price of a painter to do 2 or 3 while we're in the area.
Excellent. I'm just trying to think how we could action that. Did you want to move anything that way, or what? Yes.
Just a comment around, so Rennie Community are also trying to work on an initiative. So I think, obviously, if we form an committee of council, definitely we need to include not just Corolla.
Yep.
And, we work with Maya as an ongoing, and Rennie would be wanting to see that funding avenue as well. So, yes, we need to look at that whole of council anyway.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. but I think it wasn't a lot of money in the concept things to get one painted, was it?
Actually, we've since followed up with some more examples of actual costs, and they've been $100,000 to $120,000. So it's
the big ones were, I know that there were silos done with just.
We can scale them down, but
some smaller sales.
So, yeah.
I mean, that's sizable, but.
Yeah.
Did you want to make a recommendation, or just an ask?
So they are going to address the council in December. They've asked, part of this letter, they've asked for some time to just have a 5-minute speak and come before. That's going to happen in December.
Okay.
Yeah, well, maybe we can be on the front foot and have something ready, and perhaps talk with, not everyone talking with Waganya people and see if we want to make it, bring it all in together.
Definitely, there's good opportunities within the Shire, and of course once you get to Yarrawonga, heading that way, there's a silo trail there in place already.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Okay, well, to note, and then 14.4 country meetings, copy the minutes of the meeting, Councillor Neal.
Yeah, to 14.4 and 14.5, Mr Mayor, if you look at the minutes of those, it's got me designated as the Mayor of the Federation Council. You might just want to make a correction on those minutes when you're next to country. I feel somewhat embarrassed that they've designated me that in your stead. And the other thing I'd like to comment that the speakers at country mayors, and thank you very much to the council for the opportunity to attend, really interesting speakers, especially David Salisbury from Country Energy and the Southern Lights project, which is something that they're a group of councils from across the southern border of New South Wales are looking to put LED lights into their street lighting, and not only LED but also a communication platform so that you can do all sorts of funky things like make the lights run up and down either side, and cameras for communication, speakers for music and entertainment, and it's really some quite clever stuff. So he was a very interesting speaker, and also given the network and other projects that will come up in the workshop this afternoon.
Smart cities, which is pretty scary when you look at the technology, the way it's going, like surveillance, etc.
Yeah. So, and my understanding is that we're just waiting on the state government, which will go into caretaker pretty soon. We're hoping we can get a decision on funding for that project prior to the election occurring. So, thank you for the opportunity. It was a great.
And thanks for acting there on the day. I had a prior commitment at my while at the munitions factory, so I much appreciate it. Thanks very much. Councillor Meagle. Last one, country mayors.
Yeah, that was a minute today.
Okay, there's a recommendation there to move 14.3, 14.4 and 14.5. Do I have the mover, please, Councillor? Moved by Councillor Wales, seconded by Councillor Law. No further favour?
Aye.
Against,